It's good to have you here. Is this a special place for you?
Planet Earth.
Planet Earth is, and then this trailer, and then Glastonbury. How is it? How'd you like
Trailer's
that?
been the best part so far.
Why?
You're air conditioned.
But Glastonbury doesn't have, Glastonbury doesn't have rain cover or air conditioning. That's two of the things you have to buy into.
Americans, we pray for one day for Britain to understand heating and cooling the way the rest of the first world does.
What is the difference?
You don't have any.
Hey, but we're working on it. Come on.
Also, the hot and cold water taps, you can put those in one faucet now. You don't have to have scalding hot on one side and freezing cold on the other. You can combine them.
But for goodness sake, it's a balancing
You
act.
have about a 5-second chance to wash your hands.
It's a balancing act, you know. So that's too hot or it's too cold. You walk away again. You run the bath, and eventually you flood the downstairs neighbour. Last year you were one of the secret shows. I've often wondered when you're the secret show at Glastonbury, are you sort of bussed in undercover and then kept in a sort of holding pen? How does that work?
Yeah, I don't know. I don't know how they do that. We didn't find out about it until just maybe a few days before. Maybe they were just seeing if it could even work with our schedule. So it was a nice surprise to us too.
In these days, even these days of technology, even here in the UK, this place at Glastonbury is still awash with rumours, and rumours that they can't either come to fruition or not, as the case may be. I think it's what makes it so wonderful as well. Will you have a chance to see some other bands while you're here?
I hope so. I wanted to see Broken Bells last time, but we didn't get to drive out. We had to rehearse in London with a new crew, so I was just watching C6 Steve before I came over here, so that sounded great. Yeah.
Now, last time you were on the road, not last time you were on the road, the second record was one written on the road, is that right? Because the story goes that the original, I hesitate to use the word project, but I will, was based initially around possibly releasing some 7-inch singles. And then what happened?
I sort of accidentally made an album and accidentally started going on tour. It didn't, and then 10 months later we had the second album. So it was all a whole year of unplanned activity, which is really great for us because I think everyone in the band was up for something new, and something that was energetic and came out of nowhere. So we were just as shocked when the second album started coming together.
Because it's been, it's been relatively easy to make these two records quickly. Is there a tendency, or is there a temptation now to see when you can, other things allowing, other projects allowing, other bands allowing, make the next one?
Yeah, I guess the one thing is it's definitely going to influence all the other bands that we're into on working styles. You know, it's hard to do something that quick and not learn something from it. It's really inspiring. You know, it's also, you know, in the age that we're in right now, where sort of people have a shorter attention span, people want things, people are bored with things quicker. Hopefully bands will put out music more often, like they used to do, and you'll get bands doing 2, maybe even 3 albums a year soon.
I hope so, and I hope they will have as arresting sleeves as Sea of Cowards has as well. It's at once arresting and also disturbing. Was that the intention? What's going on there, and who should take the credit for it?
That was we left a lot of it in the hands of Floria Sigismundi. We thought we could film a video and do all the album photography all on the same day. We try something different, and so we told her that we wanted to. The album was called Sea of Cowards, and we were interested in masks, and she devised all that.
There's a Beefheart thing going on there, isn't there?
Yeah. Well, always. You know, it's always underlying with us, I think. You know.
Jack, what's next for you?
I'm going to get some sleep, get something to eat, get some coffee.
No problems with songs. They were just coming out left and right, and we were recording them as fast as possible. We were even hard-pressed to top the first demo recordings of the songs. We just stopped in the middle of a tour to record them at my place, and we just couldn't beat them. Like, some of them just had to go on the record like they were. It's just a wild environment. It's sort of growing up in an institution. Really, there's just so many people around. It's wild. You never know what's going to happen. It's sort of like a traveling circus in a way. I imagined these things for a while that were occurring every hour on the hour or so, and it turned out later that these were demons, I was told, that I was imagining. Until I started doing still the doctors came to the house and were looking at the drawings. That's when it sort of came out that I needed to move that over into something else. So I started picking up the drums and playing xylophones and things that were laying around the house, which my parents were avid xylophone collectors at the time, so we had a lot of strange ones from Eastern Europe and places like that had different scales. The Demons persisted for a while until I realized there was a guitar in the house, and then I moved on to that. Well, we're just starting to, in the last few shows, debuting all these songs from the new album, so we're slowly feeling them out and giving them new life, and it's really nice to have a set list with so much opportunity in it now. I mean, going out and touring our first album it's tough. We did it with the Raconteurs as well. Just going out with one album's worth of material, you really have to push yourself really hard and figure out how to put on this show. It's not the same when a band with got 10 years under their belt or 5 albums or something like that. So that's the spot we're in right now, and it's really explosive, I feel. It's just causing us to really put our heads in together and see what we can come up with all the time, and I really love it. It's incredibly inspiring. It's inspired this album as well as the first one too, I think, to really to propel more and more music coming out at a time when I think people are treating music more like a soundbite or as a passing thing that they're fast forwarding and clicking off of, and I think that means it's just time to work even more harder and get more involved in it.
Jack and Dean from Dear Weather, how you guys doing?
Good. Here we go. That's an early start. How are you guys?
Good. We're good.
Welcome to New Zealand. Happy St. Patrick's Day.
Thank you. I didn't know it was St. Patrick's Day.
Do you ever celebrate?
That's right. No, but he's not an Irish saint, contrary to popular belief. He's the patron saint of Ireland, but that doesn't mean that it's an Irish saint. Sorry, I was thinking some of my words.
No, that's right. Do you plan on having any form? Well, I guess that answers my question. If you don't know St. Patrick's Day, you're not going to plan on having any form of celebration for the show tonight, then? Because I know, if I may be wrong, you did something for Halloween.
Oh, right. Yeah. Maybe we can get Alison to have green hair tonight.
Now, as the story goes, with the Dear Weather, for the people that don't know, you guys came about from a Raconteurs gig. You know, Jack, you lost your voice, and of course the Kills were on the bill. You got Alison on stage. Now, I saw an interview recently. You said that you got her up on stage so you could play the hits at the end and get the cash. Did you ever pay her for it?
I don't think so. She said that she still reminds me of owing her something. I think there's a contract that you enter into, a verbal contract, a mental contract too.
Mental,
yeah, which is, I think, how we're still getting away with not paying her for even the Dead Weather shows.
She hasn't hit you up for it.
No,
She's leaving it a long time to ask you for something.
I think she's hoping she doesn't want to ruffle anyone's feathers.
Oh yeah, I did hear an interesting thing as well, which I want to know if there's been an update to it with Alison in particular, with you guys, that she'd been asking too many trade secrets from you guys, and you were trying to keep it an absolute quiet. You didn't want to give away too much of the man code. She's still trying to hit you up, and have you managed to hold on to those trade secrets?
I don't really understand the question, but I'll try to answer it. Keeping her in the dark is how she works best.
Yeah,
that's probably the easiest way to say it. She's to be on stage with Alison is exercise in not knowing what's going to happen next. So, and the more we tell her, the worse it gets. So, I think we're going to keep it the way it is.
yeah.
Nice. And talking about the first album as well, Whorehound, listening to the album, it sounds, to put a description on it, sounds live and spontaneous. Was that kind of what was going on in the studio at the time when you were putting it together?
Yeah, it was.
Because it was even to the point of no one really knew who was going to play what instruments for a while, wasn't it?
Yeah, that's correct. Yeah, that enough water. LJ was playing drums on that song, so we still didn't know what was going on.
I think all bands would be better for it if they could all play, if every member could play instruments and you could swap around. Like, does it help when writing a song? Like, if you're on drums for this, say you get up with an idea for a guitar part, or vice versa.
It's incredible in this band to know that you're in good hands when anybody sits down at an instrument.
Yeah.
If Alison sits down and plays a synthesizer, or LJ plays a guitar, I'm all ears. I mean, of course, you root for anybody to take on something new too, and they always have a new take on it. It's better, the less proficient they are at the instrument too, is even more interesting.
Why? What is it?
Because they'll do something accidental or something that's not learned.
Yeah.
Over time, when you play an instrument for so long, you start going down paths. You start closing off subconsciously. You don't realize all these paths are closing off.
Would you say some of the best music that you two have been a part of and in history have been results of mistakes?
I think so. You have a general idea, and then the mistakes that happen while you're writing it or recording it or rehearsing it are the things you should exemplify.
Yeah, they usually become your favorite moments in recordings.
Was that the same thing going into album number 2? Because you guys have recorded a second album now, haven't you?
That's very true. Yeah, it's called Sea of Cowards. It's coming out soon, and we actually ended up recording along with our demos because the demos came out so soulful, so fast that we couldn't improve on it.
You've likened your sound, I've heard, which was the best description that I've heard of the likening, to being, and it was you, Jack, that said it, like a bear doing 2 quick, swift pulls towards you.
Somebody finally knows what that means.
Yeah.
Whilst growling. I could picture it. A, do you still see it sounding like that? And B, will the bear hibernate at any point?
Good question. Yes, I think we still see it that way. And, no, the bear's not going to hibernate anytime soon, I don't think. We got so fast into recording the second album in the middle of the first album's tour. I mean, it's coming out. That's 2 albums in 8 months. That's a pretty inspiring time for us. And we've hit on some new ground. Some of it maybe we don't even know if people will relate to it or dig it the way we are, but I'm just glad it's happening. It could be a lot worse.
I also wanted to touch on one thing as well. Our afternoon hosts caught up with Slash this week on the show. And he was talking about you, Jack. He was saying that he sees currently one of the most relevant guitarists currently, which is a huge compliment, to say the least. I also heard that he asked you to join him on the album. What happened there?
Yeah, I don't really remember that. I heard about it later. I seem to remember getting asked, but there's so many of those kind of requests for albums where there's a compilation. Like, 10 other people are already on board. Would you play one song with so-and-so? And I've never been a big fan of those albums where every song's a different collaboration. It seems to be sort of like a lot of work for, a pretense. So, I mean, some people love those records. I mean, I've just never been a fan of mine. I'd rather do something separate with Slash sometime, maybe just do a 45 together or something, where it has its own life and it could be seen outside of that. So that would be probably it. But again, I don't really remember that record.
You're talking of being prolific at the moment with both of you, writing this album whilst you've been on tour with the first album. Do you think that helps with your work with Queens and Raconteurs and you, Jack, with all your other projects? Like, whilst you're writing Dead Weather music, are sort of other ideas getting shuffled to the side or to the back of your head for your other acts?
I think you're just right. You're right when it comes out. It's better to not stifle it.
And I've been noticing around the world as you guys have been touring as well, the Third Man pop-up record stores that's been happening. For us New Zealanders on the other side of the planet, how do we get our hands on those very rare vinyls?
Well, if we hadn't had the Texas festival this week, we would probably be doing that down here, a pop-up store in New Zealand or Australia. So next time we come back, that might be a real possibility. We do all sorts of things. I mean, for people who I want experiences to happen at the moment. Things you can't get on the internet. Things you can't mail order. Yeah. Things where you had to be there to really experience it. We try to do that at every show we have. We try to have, like, say, tonight we're playing in town, and you can get a silk screen poster at the show tonight. You had to come to the show to get it. I mean, you can sell it on eBay, whatever later. I like that to always be something tangible like that at the moment of the experience. Then we have things too, like the Vault Record Club. That anybody in the world can join, and you get rare records through that. That's something that anybody anywhere can be a part of and get something that nobody else has, something unique and special. So we try as much as we can. It's hard in the age of the internet. I mean, everybody wants to have a click on Amazon and get everything at their fingertips, but they're missing out on the beauty of a real experience too.
Because that demand for that tangible thing is becoming more apparent. Like I read the other day that the sales of vinyl are exceeding what the sales were like back in 1990. Like that's the demand that it's going back to now. Yeah. So would you see that as that's where it's heading?
Yeah, very much so. Digital and vinyl are the two formats that are going to see them through the next decade, and it's incredible that vinyl has lasted through this ditch of glut of digital technology. It shows people still want to hold on to something real. And I'm glad to be a part of it with Third Man Records, to be a part of that.
Yeah. I guess we just got to hope that the leotards and horrible hair doesn't make it come back with it.
Yeah, I guess so. Yeah. Is that your perception of vinyl?
The tangible things, though. Look back to 1990.
Oh, right, yeah, that's true.
Yeah. No, I know. supergroups, it gets thrown around there a lot, the title. Ones that are sort of well known within the radio station that we work for that are played. I just want to get the first word that comes into both of your head when I mention a few of these. And they can be whatever word, obviously, that comes. So, crooked vultures, travelling Wilburys.
I don't know if I could say one word about them.
That's
Roy
perfect.
Orbison. Roy.
Audio slave.
I don't know what I feel about Audio Slave. Tom Morello is brilliant. He's just one of the most brilliant guitar players who ever lived. There's no doubt about it. I really tried hard to get him involved in that It Might Get Loud film.
Right.
I really think he has a lot to say. He's one of the most original guitar players in the last 20 years.
I'm just going to break away from that, because that's probably enough to go through. I just want to touch on that It May Get Loud documentary. There's a really nice moment in that, which is an awesome documentary, full stop, but there's a really nice moment in it where I think you guys have been talking for quite a while. You know, there's you, The Edge, and Jimmy Page, and Jimmy Page picks up the guitar for the first time and rips into a whole lot of love, and they capture it really well, the looks on both yours and The Edge faces, where you look like little kids in candy stores, you know, like just pumped up. Do you guys ever get starstruck still, and when was the last time you were?
Well, the funny thing about that moment, though, is that it looks like I'm looking at him playing, but actually, right behind him, someone had just brought in dessert. The camera didn't catch that moment.
It was good editing.
Yeah, it really was.
What was The Edge looking at?
I'm not sure.
Do you ever get starstruck though? Is there anybody that you've met? You know, you guys that hang around in such, you know, great circles that of amazing artists. Is there anybody where sometimes you're like, shit, it's bloody so and so?
I think anybody you respect musically. I mean, you listen to the records for a long time. You can go two ways. Sometimes you would like to meet them, and sometimes you'd rather not. You know, Iggy Pop said something about Nick Cave once. He said, you know, I buy all his records. I love his music. I have no reason to meet him. I have no reason to go backstage and try to talk to him. I don't have any interest. I just love his music. So it's a really interesting way to look at it. Sometimes you don't want to destroy that. You have a relationship when you listen to people on record or see films of people. You have a relationship with them. I mean, everyone has a relationship with whoever, you know, whether you know it or not. I have a relationship with Al Pacino if I watch The Godfather or something. And do I need to meet him? I don't know. I mean, if he walked by, I'd be excited, but I don't really know if I should talk to him or not. Maybe it's not worth it.
Right.
Cool.
Let's wrap it up.
We'll wrap it up. Thank you very much, Jimmy.
Oh, one last question, lads. We ask this in
that's
every
right.
interview. Probably the most serious. Who would win in a fight, do you think, in neutral territory?
Everybody wants people to fight.
Between a great white shark,
Aggressive.
great white shark and a lion in neutral territory. Who's
Neutral
gonna win?
territory.
Yeah.
Is that half
So
in and out, half?
well,
half
we've decided it's space now.
Oh, it's just outer space.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. Because I was saying, the shark might win by dragging him into the water, but if it's in the outer space,
Just creature versus creature. Who's
creature
better?
versus
Who would
creature,
win?
probably gonna have to go with the lion because he has limbs to be able to pin something down. So I think I'd vote for that.
That's a good point.
Thank you very much for your time.
We all wrote songs on this record together and apart. Sometimes in rooms by ourselves, sometimes all sitting on the same couch, like this. Actually, in my studio, we would all write like this. You remember that? Yeah. Exactly. Just like this. I'm not even kidding. And but what's more important is that we didn't get sick of each other, and that went on for weeks and weeks. And finally, we realized that we could be in a band together because of that. The two ingredients of writing songs together and not getting sick of each other equals a band, really. This is a joyous, fruitless effort that we encountered probably a year ago. It has borne no fruit, as they would say, as it would be written. Fruit meaning the efforts that you've engaged in. Can you come back for 1 second? That's not the kind of fruit I'm talking about. I'm talking about when things come to fruition, you make something, you create something in the world. Not just, if you guys want something to eat, then go over there. I'm speaking metaphorically about what we've done. So, in a nutshell, don't go get a bag of nuts either. Girls always have so many questions, about the way guys interact with each other. They want to learn so they can manipulate, so they can figure out how to use it to their advantage. Well, we're not going to give away all our secrets just because we're stuck on a bus together. Sorry. That's guy code and road code combined. Just had an incredible Third Man Records pop-up store in London a few days ago for Halloween. We took over Shoreditch Church, and we opened the record store there, and the band performed on Halloween night, and we had rare vinyl that was glow in the dark, and a lot of interesting things. We just really loved the experience of people getting up and walking to a place and buying an actual record they can hold in their hands. It's a tangible experience that I think we don't want to see lost.
You're also a producer of the album, and from behind the drummer's seat. And I read somewhere that you really liked it. But how should we picture producing from the drummer's seat?
Well, it's interesting for me. I like to play the drums, and I like to try to produce from different angles. It's sometimes it's different when you're in the band or when you're not in the band. How the production techniques you use, the things you'll suggest to other people, are different. And the same with if you're a guitar player or a drummer, you suggest different things, or your ideas come from a different angle. So I find it interesting. I'm doing it a lot lately on a lot of 7-inches coming out of Third Man. I've been producing as a drummer. So.
Lovely to meet you. Thanks so much for joining us.
Nice to meet you too.
Really appreciate it. I was just thinking how bloody weird this is. That here we are sitting in the Langham, the lounge of the Langham, where there are rules about how one ought to behave and all this kind of stuff. It's kind of odd, rock and roll, isn't it? Where it might take you, where you might end up. Was it ever your expectation that you would be, 5-star hotel, travel the world, club lounges and all that kind of stuff, successful being?
I believe last time, John, when you and I were climbing the mountains in the Himalayas, what was it, 4 or 5 years ago?
5, yeah.
5. And conversation turned to politics, as it normally does with you.
New Zealand politics, yeah.
I started to try to convince you of music and the potential that it could have, and when you finally invited us to New Zealand and brought us here today, I don't know, I just wanted to say that.
Thanks for that, Jack. Jack, do you tell lies all the time, Jack?
No, just now.
Some of the time.
Some of the time. You have to. How can you get by? I mean, waiter says, how was the meal? It was fine. It was great. It's not really worth the trouble to tell him how terrible it was.
And also, when you become famous,
Yes.
and you're asked the same questions ad infinitum, it's a way of, it must be a kind of release valve. Is it just to make stuff up?
Oh, only if it sells records. You have to think of it that way. I mean, it's not going to propel you into the next tax bracket. It doesn't really do much good. I mean, it can be funny for a second, but really, you're hurting kids' feelings. So you have to take their feelings into consideration.
I was reading this amazing interview with Andrew Perry. I think you've spoken to him a lot.
He's a good guy, yeah. I owe him a lot of money.
Yeah.
What did he say?
Oh no, just lots of good stuff. But he's talking about 2004 and how haunted you looked in 2004 and how not haunted you don't look now.
Yes.
How unhaunted you look.
Unhaunted.
What's the difference between then and now? Is it that you managed to manage the business of being Jack White, working with people like Dean and doing other stuff, the Dead Weather or whatever, that it's some...
Yeah.
You found a way to be.
Maybe so. I mean, I think it was do or die, sink or swim. There was a time where, we came from a different musical scene, Dean and I, and it's very vicious. You have to sort of fight your way through it. I mean, if you came out through a country music scene or something, I mean, the more success you have or something, you might even be more propelled to keep going farther and totally patted on the back the entire way. I don't know. I'm from Nashville. I live in Nashville now, so it's just the way I look at it on that side of things. But in the music realm we came from was very clouded with a lot of strange ideas about what fame and success or any of those things mean. A lot of punk rock iconography and idolism would permeate everyone's thoughts about what you should and shouldn't do when it comes to music and how you should try to be perceived by other people, but it's very difficult. I mean, I used to say, I finally started to say, it's all well and good as long as you don't succeed, So,
but you did succeed.
That's what I'm saying, yeah. I guess you're just forced to understand it better so you can keep moving forward. If you don't, it'll just swallow you up, I guess.
Yeah, destroy you. I'm thinking of dear old Coldplay and Chris Martin, who you know, they first came to New Zealand about 10 years ago. They were beautiful boys. Anything seemed possible. Now they seem to be single-handedly responsible for propping up EMI's share price. I mean, that's a crappy way to live your life, isn't
It really is.
Jack?
Yes.
It's amazing watching you beyond. You know, so you're looking around, and your thumb is going the whole time. You've got everyone, as the floor ladies, the room service ladies are walking through.
The ladies.
Yeah, the ladies. And so, when are you calm?
Right now, I'm very calm right now.
Are you?
The doctors tell me I'm very calm right now.
I just
They
wonder,
weren't saying that yesterday.
I just wonder about your energy
Yes.
and the way you keep. And there's this lovely quote from Andrew Perry: an inflexible 3-year cycle of album, endless touring, recuperation. Under such conditions, White, a man of pathological restlessness, would surely combust. And bands like the Dead Weather or the Raconteurs and whoever, are they your way of dealing with the inevitability of combustion if you just stayed with the White Stripes?
They just happen out of pure necessity. I've never planned to be in the Dead Weather. I never planned to be in the Raconteurs. But I think the difference with me is that I don't get in the way of those ideas. I think a lot of artists might say, look, there's 4 of us in a room recording together. This is really happening. But a normal, good business sense would tell you that, well, can't really do that right now. I already have this band called the White Stripes. It's taking up a lot of my time. But I don't really do it that way. I've always thought, well, if this is happening, I really need to pursue it because this could be the next step for me in pushing myself to do something new and interesting. I guess in a sense it's a really selfish feeling because I have to feed my inspiration first and foremost, or nothing else comes of it that anybody else could take from. So I guess I don't really have a choice in it. I never really have. I think it seems like from the outside I might be choosing all the time to do this or that, but I really feel myself that I haven't had any choice at all.
Bill Bradley in Vanity Fair said, I never fully understood the White Stripes, and I think that's how Jack and Meg would want it.
Yeah.
Except I always think that sort of presupposes that you understand. I mean, the sense I'm getting is that you're just viscerally going for it.
Yeah.
I mean, there's no grand architecture at all you're suggesting in what you're doing. Is that
Well,
right?
it'd be quite boring if it was completely planned out, and even if it was completely planned out and it succeeded at that, it would be quite boring too. Leaving half of it open for interpretation and open to grow would be a lot more interesting to me. That's why I've always tried to look at it.
You guys got a new album coming out in May. And did you impose time restrictions on yourselves and record it in a short period? All that stuff?
Here and there.
Yeah, it's about the same. Yeah, 2.5, 3 weeks.
Yeah, in the end, it was about the same amount of time. We playing along with our demos, too, recording along with our demos, not erasing them, but playing alongside them was the interesting idea in this record. It's called Sea of Cowards. It's coming out in a couple of weeks, or about a month or something. I don't know. Was it March now?
Yeah, mid-March.
Maybe in end of April or something like that.
Yeah. And how often, did you get really near what you wanted in the first take or couple of takes and think, actually, we can stop? Does that happen?
Very much so, yeah. And you're onto something if that's what's happening. Going back and recording on a computer or trying to perfect it ends up usually ruining the soul of the track. You want to stay as close to that as possible. It's very difficult. It's not always where you can just walk in a room, play, and press record, and it comes out interesting live. Sometimes it just doesn't happen. And that was the same for any band. The Beatles too. They couldn't always just walk in and do it. They just had to. They just weren't very good songwriters. I was kidding.
There was so much the Beatles couldn't do in a funny sort of way.
Yeah.
I mean, imagine if Lennon or McCartney had said, look, I'm just actually going to bugger off for a wee while and join, 3 other bands.
Right.
Yeah, I'll be back. I may be back. I may not. I'm not quite sure at the moment.
You couldn't do it back then.
I mean, they couldn't do that, could they?
No. I wouldn't let them.
And so you resist that stuff. So the old adage, to thine own self be true, seems to me to be the case more with you fellows. Is that right, do you think?
You have to be. I think you couldn't sit down and really write out ideas for other people to be pleased by. It has to please you first and inspire you first before anyone else can get something from it. I think when you go and see a band on stage, you're looking for a lot of things. You're looking to see if there's some genuine interest happening from the artists themselves, if it's not pre-planned, or and how much of it you can relate to. So you're always watching them to see how they're relating to their own music. Some people go up and just play it, and they lip sync, or they play to a track, or they play the same set every night. And I'm completely disinterested because I think the artist isn't even interested in his own work. So how can I care about it. How can I love you if you don't love yourself?
What about the alchemy of playing with other musicians? So when you go from, say, the Queens to Raconteurs to Dead Weather, does that reinvent your joy of what you're doing and your enthusiasm for it? Forgive this question because it's an insight into my psychology rather than yours. But do the other projects take that personally? I mean, because music has essentially been monogamous always, and so when you're having open marriages, what about what about the other guys? They're thinking, hold on a
Of course, yeah. Meg told me the other day when we started the Dead Weather, she goes, well, then I'm never going to a Raconteur show ever again. It took me a while to figure that out. I'm still thinking about that.
I'm still thinking about that. So, right.
We should talk about that later.
Speaks in code, yeah.
She does. So you know what she meant.
I do.
You're trying to get more musicians to join in and be suckers to feed off the money from the earlier musicians. It's either a Ponzi or a pyramid.
All I know is I gave him a lot of money.
Yeah, that's the best thing to do. That way you know you did something right.
Yep.
Do you have a set list, you guys?
We do in the Dead Weather, but it's becoming it's starting to disappear. We have a different setup than the other band, like the White Stripes is a little bit different. There's only 2 people on stage, so it's very easy for me to call out something and change it in the middle of a song. We can stop a song and change it into something else. So now there's more people on stage, so it's a little more difficult to catch everyone's eye. So, but we're getting there slowly. Especially when the drummer, people aren't really looking at me. They're the other way. Yeah, exactly.
You're going off unilaterally somewhere.
Right.
And they're thinking, what's this prick up to?
Exactly. I agree with that completely. It reminds me of the army or childhood. I can't remember. Both of which I considered punishments. But again, the main crux of it is that I'm completely entombed in something that Dean has the keys to, and not Allison. And if I can look at him, he'll catch her attention. And there we are again, right back at the beginning. I've explained this all in my memo to you this morning.
Yeah, you did.
Lala, could you get a copy of that memo faxed over?
No problem.
That'd be great. Send it to me too, because I'd like to understand what it meant.
You got it.
Meg will explain it.
Yeah, and then Meg can tell you. You know what's great? I'll tell you, just to shift stories a little bit. This morning we went to breakfast, the same place we had breakfast. I think this can only happen in New Zealand, because we went to breakfast this morning and the same place we had breakfast yesterday. But in line in front of us at breakfast this morning was 2 people. And the first person was someone who had given us coffee the day before at a different location, the first drink I had in the morning. And the person in front of him was the girl who had served us a beer last night, the last drink I had in the day. So in front of me was the 2 people had given me drinks, the first drink and the last drink of the day were in front of me in line. And I told them this, that this could only happen in New Zealand. And they called security. I don't understand them. I was just making conversation. But that kind of thing doesn't happen in larger cities in New York or anything like that. So it's interesting how everyone really knows each other here, don't they?
Yeah, they do. Yeah, they do.
Could you tell some of them to come to the show tonight?
Yeah. It's sold out, the show.
Oh, well then don't tell them to come.
Yeah.
Thanks, Mom.
What did you dream of when you were a kid? What did you want to be when you grew up?
I didn't know, but I went through different phases. For a while, I was really interested in the military. I wanted to be in the Air Force for a while. But then as I got older, I thought about being a priest. And
Are you telling the truth here, John?
I'm telling the truth this time,
honest
yeah.
to goodness truth?
As much as the last question I said. The last answer I gave. You're asking the questions.
Yeah.
Maybe we should switch it.
Okay, you ask me a question.
What did you want to be when you were a kid?
I wanted to be...
No, I mean, looking back, what would you like to be when you were a kid? Not when you wanted to be older. Would you rather change your childhood to something else? Think about it, John.
Yeah.
You know what you were. Tell me what you wanted to be back then if you didn't have to be yourself. Well, I'll send him a memo. John, I can't explain all this stuff to you.
Jacob Dean, thanks so much. Great. It was a weird interview, but it was lovely.
Come on.
It was lovely sharing.
Well, thank you for being here. We have a lovely skyline. It's kind of like being in a cruise ship, over Lake Ontario here. I guess the last time we spoke was not quite a year ago when Whorehound just came out. And when Sea of Cowards was announced, it was like, really? Another album already? This is like the Beatles in the old school back in the 60s and 70s when bands would put out 2 albums a year.
We thought so. We hope you think so too.
Was it just ready and time to release another record, or was the chemistry so good that you guys just kept going, or what was it?
Yeah, we never really stopped after the first one. Started
writing on the road immediately. And one of the first breaks that we had, we went into the studio and thought we'd just get a few of these ideas on tape, and it turned out so well that we ended up keeping them, and that's part of the record right there.
The first record was made at the end of everybody's tour, and you were all really kind of exhausted, and it was just like, well, I guess it came out of too much wine at the end of a tour wrap, right?
Yeah, it was sort of a 7-inch project that turned into something bigger, and it's just kept rolling like that, and all the way into this new album now. We just didn't want to stop. We didn't want to have all these in the can and say, oh, let's put it out 2-3 years from now. We thought, let's do it right now. We're still touring. It'd be great to do 1-2 punch like that. None of us had done that before, and any of our bands put out 2 albums in a year. So it felt something really interesting. I'm interested in the matchup of the attention span of the internet and the digital age now, matching up with music like that.
Well, let's talk about that, because I find that absolutely fascinating. Because what you could be, if you were on a conventional record label, they would say, dude, you're flooding the market. You're overexposing yourself. Let it go for 2-3 years before you release something. But 10 months later, you're back in it, giving people with short attention spans more stuff to pay attention to.
It's interesting. I want the answer's still out there. I mean, when you put out what they call content now, put in something on the internet, some kind of video or some live track or something, a week later, the label asks you for more content. And it's funny, it just keeps going like that. You have to keep supplying and feeding that beast because of the way the internet is. People have seen that clip already, heard that song, saw that photograph. But it's not, that's not extending itself to albums. What it ends up happening a lot of times, I think, the major labels making a big mistake is what they do is repackage an album sometimes 2-3 times by the end of the year with extra tracks, and I think it's such a rip-off to fans.
Well, Lady Gaga did it, and Justin Bieber did it, and you're basically getting people to buy the same record twice, and then maybe there's special iTunes downloads, and you have to go buy that, and maybe that comes with a package, and it's a bit weird.
So we went through that on Whorehound. Everybody wanted an exclusive thing, and you have to, if you don't give each compartment their exclusive track or something, then they punish you and they won't advertise your record or something. It's a desperate time, man. It's really strange for music.
With this record, there seems to be more of a 50-50 division of labor when it comes to vocals. Is that an accurate...
What do you mean? Sorry.
The vocals, like the duets and stuff.
Oh, in this record, there's more of that. Yeah, I don't know. That just happened, as we wrote songs, they kind of came together in that way. We never sort of talked about it or meant to do that or anything. It just seemed.
And you're out front like you're always doing. Some of your vocals are a little uninhibited.
Some of them, yes. Yeah, I mean, we never talked about in this band what we're supposed to do, who we are as a band, what our positions are. We never defined them. We still haven't defined them. We just sat behind an instrument one day. I happened to be sitting behind the drums, and it just progressed that way. That most of the time I'm the drummer. I mean, we're not a band where we all switch instruments or like some kind of circus act on stage or anything like that. But the idea is that the four of us write, and if anybody has an idea to sing, if Dean sings the lead single, it doesn't really mean it's not a mistake. It's not Allison's the lead singer. We can't do that. I think that's the case.
It's a hell of a chemistry that must be between you guys, because to be able to be that giving and that flexible, it's pretty cool, isn't it?
Yeah, I think that's why this band works, and why we've done what we've done, and the amount of time also. I think the inspiration we give each other is a great chemistry there that's keeping us going, and just even in the studios, it's just works really well. We all write, we all sit around, and everyone's throwing in opinions, and it all works.
What I find fascinating too, again, this goes back to sort of the larger context, is the idea of the music as an artifact. With Third Man, you have actual 7-inch singles and actual albums with special hand-drawn or very limited edition covers. Do you know how much that first 7-inch single, the one that you handed out at the party, is worth?
No, how much?
Last I saw, it's trading with collectors for $2,500 or more.
Not bad. I should have saved one.
So anything that you release in the small amounts that you release, it's typically, what, 100, 150?
Every record Third Man puts out, we try to do a limited edition version of each record, whether it's tricolor vinyl or something hand-painted or something like that. Usually 100 to 150 of each record. It's a nice thing, because if you wanted to collect that label's records, you could you'd never really be able to finish. It could be a lifelong thing. That's what I thought. Once the label's gone, or if it ever is one day, that there's just a plethora of things to explore down the road. We're a year and a half in. We're already on our 55th record, so that's pretty fast.
Because I went to the Rough Trade East store, and there was a bunch of Third Man 7-inch. I went so far over my customs limit, and one of the ones I just love, the Dex Ron Weber duo. That's a great record.
It really is. I'd love to see that get some more college radio airplay. He's just a real hidden genius. He's sort of hidden in plain sight. He's been there for a long time, Dex Ron Weber, and I think he's brilliant. He's got some sort of magic to him when he performs that you don't see in anybody else.
His sister is like she scares me the way she sings.
Yeah. Wild, man, and she's a great drummer too.
Talk about a couple of songs on Sea of Cowards. Yeah. Die by the Drop is a terrific opener. Any stories behind that, or is it just one of those songs that comes out of a jam?
That came out of a 1-minute segment we were playing in the studio. Dean was on piano, and we just started playing together, and it lasted about a minute. Allison was singing, and we just moved on to something else. We played it back later, though. Oh, that was really nice. We ended up playing on a separate tape machine along with that 1-minute demo, because we thought it was so heavy and had so much energy to it. We played along with it on 8 new tracks, and turned it into a 2.5, 3-minute song, whatever it is, and expanded on it, and then edited it after that first minute was gone and sliced over to the other machine. So it was a really cool. I'd never done that before. So.
My favorite song, I think, is Gasoline. I don't know why, I just think it's a pretty wild track. Can you give me any insight onto that one?
That's the name of Allison's perfume that she wears. So.
I wish. Actually, I would wear that.
She just wears
love how gasoline smells.
Why don't girls do that? That'd be great. We'd love that, I think.
It's really bad for you to put in your skin.
Probably, yeah.
Too. With a little bit of hairspray and a little bit of gasoline behind it. Yeah.
Well, I've got a feeling I'm already there. But you could make like a synthetic, non-flammable version. Anyone out there got any ideas?
Let's try it. Let's go hit the BP station after this.
Or just the beach on...
It'll make a day out of it.
And Old Mary, the end track, the last track, okay, as an old Catholic guy too, that just smacks of Hail Mary full of grace somehow. Am I right?
Yeah, for sure. It's just a reference of not the religious component of the prayer, just the meter of the prayer. I think a lot of times you forget when you read the Bible that it's prose, or books like that of that nature. They're written with a meter, but you can jump into that rhythm and take it someplace else. I was just trying to get into the meter and take it far away from that and make it into a different character.
I put out a note on Twitter today, and I asked people if they had any questions, and I actually have a bunch of them. Would you mind answering some of them? Sure. Somebody has been after me for a couple of years to ask this question: Get Behind Me, Satan, never on vinyl. Why?
The reason that happened was because Meg and I were going to go record the album in its entirety after we had gone on tour. We were going to tour the album for a while, South America and Europe, and then we were going to record the album in its entirety to vinyl, straight to acetate in New Zealand. We knew a studio that could record straight to cutting it to acetate. So we figured by the time we got out there and played the songs a few times, we'd be able to do a whole side without stopping. Because if you made one thing you didn't like, you'd have to start over again. So we said, let's wait till the middle of the tour, end of the tour. And that way, by the time we got to New Zealand, the studio had closed down and moved. So it just got pushed aside. And but now that we have Third Man up and running, and we're re-releasing, we remastered from analog tape the first 3 White Stripes albums that's coming out this fall, and then Get Behind Me, Satan's coming soon after.
That's going to be on 180 gram vinyl, the whole works?
Yes, it's going to be on 470 grams vinyl. We found a machine. It's an old Viking machine.
You know, there's actually a couple of guys got downsized from a job. I think they were working in the banking industry here in Canada, and they were sitting around one day looking at their severance checks, and they figured, well, what are we going to do? So they said, why don't we open up a record pressing plant? So they did, and they're running this thing flat out. They did 20,000 White Stripes, Arcade Fire records, and they just can't keep up with the orders. I mean, there aren't that many pressing plants around these days.
There aren't, but it's the only segment of the music industry that's rising in sales. Again, this report just came out as CD sales dropped to 20% again, and vinyl sales are up. So that's great. That shows people want a tangible component to music. They want to hold it in their hands. They want it to be on their shelf and have some. They want to have some reverence to the music they love. It's not just people out there who want to just digitally download it, have it be portable, and have it be invisible. That's one component, and that's all nice and good and all that, but there's a segment that's growing and growing, people to re-acknowledge the beauty of the artifact, you know?
Yeah, I've got a digital camera. I've never printed out a photo.
They don't look good, man.
When you printed out an album cover that comes with a digital download, it's just on my screen on my iPod. Right. But a record I hold in my hands and can play with.
Yeah. You feel like you don't really own the record until you have the vinyl, almost. Yeah. So it's like you watch the movie on a iPad or a laptop. You didn't really see it in the theater. You feel like almost you didn't really see the film.
Yeah.
I don't know. It's just the way you look at it, I guess.
Another question here. You seem highly influenced by Orson Welles and old films in general. Third Man Records. That's Third Man is a Orson Welles movie of the same name. The song Union Forever, all the lyrics are lines in Citizen Kane. Why the Citizen Kane connection, the Orson Welles connection?
He's a big idol of mine. One of the first sort of auteurs that I, as a teenager, fell in love with and just tried to discover as much as I could about him. I worked at a movie theater in Detroit called the Fox Theater, and they showed Citizen Kane. I had a re-release of it, and I went in during my break and watched the film, and I was just mesmerized. And it was the kind of film I almost kind of looked back and said, I don't really know why that connected with me so much. I shouldn't have resonated with my head at the time, like 15 years old or something. My head was someplace else, but for some reason it sort of penetrated and stuck with me. I've always gave a little acknowledgement to him, also the number 3. So that was because he sort of started me down a different path.
When you were working as an upholsterer and slipping little pieces of poetry into those reupholstered couches, has anybody ever found one?
I don't know. I don't think so. No one's ever told me if they have. I don't know. There was another thing too we did was the upholsterer I work with. I had a band called the Upholsterers, and we put 100 vinyl records inside of 100 pieces of furniture that are out there right now. Well, it was an upholsterer's record, but it was printed on clear vinyl with a clear cover, a see-through transparent cover, so that you couldn't even X-ray the chair to see if it was in there. It was the idea, but the joke behind it. So they're out there. There's like 100 pieces of them out there somewhere. I can't tell you. It's a secret.
Now, I'll tell you what, your record, Icky Thump, what a great record.
Thank you.
It really is a great record. Where did you get that expression from?
Well, my wife's from Northern England. She's from Oldham. So,
Oldham Lancs?
She said it. She said it a few times in conversation, and then I thought it was interesting. When me and Meg were writing that song, I just kept saying, I kept starting off with phrases with it, you know, Ecky with an E, you know,
Ecky Thump.
Ecky Thump.
Yeah.
And I kept starting the phrases off Ecky Thump, Who'da Thunk, you know.
And once you tried that expression back in America, did people understand it at all? Did they get?
Well, it's a bit like, we changed it to Icky with an I, you know how like Led Zeppelin took the A out so kids in America wouldn't say Lead Zeppelin, L-E-A-D, how you spell lead, you know. You change it, if you make it Icky, then like maybe teenagers, they know that, it's gross.
Yeah, no, it works.
Well, it's a better metaphor anyhow, I think.
I think it works beautifully.
Yeah.
It's a very beautiful song. Now, how long did it take you to record your record? You're very good at...
This one was the longest we ever spent. It was about 3 weeks this time.
3 weeks? That is pretty amazing. I mean, some people take years.
No coffee breaks either.
No. I mean, out of interest, Kaiser Chiefs, how long did it take you to do your racing record? Just how long? A year. You see, they care. Yeah. Is it true that when you were doing the record, on the wall of your studio, you had a picture of the great blues man, Charlie Patton?
Yeah, that's right.
And why did you have a picture of him up?
Well, just something, sort of bless the whole project, bless it song by song. A lot of times you'll sing something or you record something and oh, let's hear that back. And then you have to stand there for a second while the tape rewinds. And,
Yes. Now the tips that you give to people?
don't ever speak to Meg, ever. Yeah.
Never?
Yeah.
Are you in the same room together when you record, or on separate?
I have her on a monitor, a video monitor in front of me.
Yes.
She's only 3 feet behind me, but
Yes, exactly, in the same tiny booth,
Yeah,
yeah.
yeah.
Now, you've produced a lot of other artists, like Loretta and Lynn and different people you've produced. How do you, is that something you enjoy doing? You produce your own records?
Yeah, I do, yeah. It's good to just sort of like, you know, I was thinking like sometimes if you're on a film set or maybe a TV set, you know, trying to get your idea across through a lot of people. Like, you know, if you were to, I don't know who directs the show here exactly, but...
It's Janet.
Oh, hey,
Yeah.
Janet.
Yeah.
Well, you know, you get the sound people and the lighting people, and you got a lot of people to work, you know, your ideas through, you know, siphon off, you know. I always thought it must be hard to keep like a film if you're making a film. Like, you got to give credit to a director who can make a great film, because it seems like the hardest task to pull off out of all the art forms, you know, to try to keep it pure, you know.
Now, at the end of the show, you're going to play that great My Doorbell song, which I love this song. It's a great song. It's a really great song. Do you think anybody might... I could hear people covering that.
Yeah, I could too. You know, I thought Tom Jones was sent some word over. He was thinking about covering. I thought it'd be a great idea.
He could do that song great.
It's got that kind of power, you know, that he can groove to.
Yeah.
If you put kind of one Brendan Benson, one White Stripe, 2/5 of Greenhorns, you get the Raconteurs, and I'm very pleased to say that we have the Raconteurs here. Hello, Jack White.
Hey,
hello.
how are you?
Hey. So how are you doing? I mean, I guess the first question is, you've been in the UK a couple of weeks, you've been playing a number of shows. Have you had fun? Is it going well?
It's going swimmingly. Very
Yes.
good. Very nice.
Are these the first ever Raconteurs shows?
These are the first, yep.
Why did you choose the UK to play first?
Because you are still blessed with the beauty of the single.
Ah.
The single, the 45, the CD with one song. No, it's just classic that way. We just like the idea of the single, and let's go do it the way it's supposed to be done, and let's go promote the single. Let's support the single. Let's play our first shows over there, because the single's coming out. Fellas, hey, is anyone listening? It was that kind of a thing.
Yeah, so that's interesting. So Steady As She Goes was the first single, which will be coming out in April. You released a nice, very limited edition vinyl version that's now selling on eBay for ridiculous amounts of money. Well, of £150, £200, something like that.
Right.
How do you feel about all that kind of
I feel great because I have
collector
100 copies of it. I'm joking. No, it's we're re-releasing that same 45, that same vinyl again when the single goes on sale at stores here. So
I've put out the word to the listeners to see if they had any questions for you. And there's quite a few people excited. They've seen you play a number of shows so far on the tour, and Amy wants to know whether you're going to continue to play in small venues. Do you like playing in small venues? Is that what the Raconteurs is all about?
I think we're always going to do it, though. We're always going to do that because it's too fulfilling to not do that. It's so intimate, you know, to get to be that close with the people. It's just it feels better, you know.
Yeah. We've got Paul Bellamy listening, and he says you were staggeringly brilliant in Liverpool, by the way. And he's got a question for Brendan Benson, saying, when you were writing the lyrics for the Raconteurs songs, weren't you tempted to keep some of the songs for your own solo album?
It's kind of hard when you're tied up.
Right.
Write them down.
Do it. No, no, it was a... You guys stop pushing me.
There's some gentle pushing going on in the studio.
I was just really focused so much on Raconteurs, the task at hand, you know, and no, I don't think of it that way. I mean, you know, I'll just...
we got all the time in the world, B. Go ahead.
Yeah,
I mean, I guess it applies to the rest of you as well. I mean, if you hit a great riff and thought, hang on a minute, might want to keep that bass line.
That's when you just don't tell the other. You just don't tell the other guys about it. I think you just know where the song's supposed to go. You know, I think Brendan knows what felt right for the four of us to play together, and what felt exciting for us to all take a stab at, you know, writing together, performing together. So yeah, that's how it goes.
We've got a few different listeners around the world. Kathleen Lambert in Philadelphia says, much love to you and the boys. And somebody else lives in LA, Jen, and she wants to know when you're going to be playing in your home country.
They're talking about America, I assume.
Yes, as in your, yeah.
Or is that very soon, very soon. We're playing one show in New York next week, and then more to come.
Yeah, and we've got a listener in Australia, Joanna Fay, says, "What does raconteurs mean?"
It's a medical term, which means storyteller.
Storyteller. Okay, so there you go, Joanna.
I thought it meant buy a dictionary.
It does, yeah.
Colin in Glasgow wants to know, at the live shows, the raconteurs have sounded really tight and organised for a band that's only played a handful of shows. Have they been rehearsing like crazy, or does it just come naturally?
Good question. Thanks, Colleen, for asking. I'd like to answer this next question in two parts, if I could. No, I think it's both, isn't it? I mean, sometimes you just some things just flow out of you, and some things are rehearsed. I mean, but the good point about this band is that we made a rule that you can't make a mistake in this band. And,
but you go ahead and watch me try.
Yes. So that alleviates a lot of a worry about doing it tight. Plus, we don't want to play it exactly like it is on the record or anything like that. That would be boring to you, the listener, and to us, the performer. Thank you very much. We've been talking to Jack White, XFM. We'll be right back.
Bruce says, please ask the lads if the album is going to be released on vinyl. It was a great disappointment to me that Get Behind Me, Satan was not released on vinyl. I did get Brendan's last LP on vinyl. Thank you, Brendan. And he's also hoping that the Greenhorns will release some of their stuff on vinyl. I'd love to have a 45 for Pattern Skies. So, vinyl, is it coming out on vinyl, the album?
Yeah, of course it is. Of course.
Super duper duper vinyl.
Super duper vinyl.
It's a new industry term.
It's the newest.
Yeah. And somebody else, I can't find their name right now, but they were asking about Liverpool. Again, somebody different in Liverpool, and they were saying, why did you choose Liverpool as the place to start the tour on? Was that your decision?
It actually just kind of happened to start that way. It was no predetermined decision, just ended up being that way. And I was kind of like, oh, that's kind of nice. What a nice blessing. Some of the the best crowds in England really are up there, and we've had some of our best shows, all of us collectively, yeah.
Respectively, I think have had. I mean, I
collectively and respectively.
Yeah, and yeah.
I understand, Jack, in Scotland you're wearing a kilt.
That's not true. That's a dirty lie. You know it, John.
I know it. I've got it on good authority.
No,
I think it might have been a Douglas tartan, was it? I'm not sure.
No, it was a oh damn, what was it? I forget what it was. No, that wasn't that. It was I forget. But Lamont, I think. Was it a Lamont?
Okay, right.
No, I thought it was JJ.
Anyways, it wasn't my clan. It wasn't the McPherson clan is my clan, but it wasn't that. Yeah, I just I thought it was about time, you know.
Yeah.
I'm Scottish, so it's about time I represent, right?
How did it feel playing in a kilt? Was it good, liberating?
It was nice, yeah.
A new dimension?
A new dimension in sound, yeah, it was.
And the air.
The night I saw you, the other night, you played a love song. I think it was A House Is Not a Motel. And somebody else was inquiring about whether you have other covers in your repertoire, because obviously there's only 10 songs on the album, and you play for an hour when you play live. I mean, do you chuck in a few other covers? Do you work it out beforehand? Do you just kind of say, right, let's do this?
Yeah, there's a lot of them. Well, we just picked a couple to play this trip, you know.
Yeah. Are they good representations of where the raconteurs are coming from?
I don't really necessarily think so. It's hard to do a cover sometimes in a band because it almost feels like it's some endorsement or some statement or something. But yeah, I think they just felt like songs we all liked playing. You know, that sounded pretty cool. Then it was something we'd be interested in. Songs we thought carried on.
Easy to play.
Yeah, that were easy to play. We picked the easiest ones to play, and that's it. That's pretty good.
And I mean, it looks like you're having a great time on stage.
That's not true either. Where are you getting all this stuff from?
With my own eyes. I saw it. I witnessed it.
Well, you know, I like it. It's okay.
We have a really experienced lighting engineer.
Yeah. And he really makes it.
He's great.
He's great.
Yeah.
So I've got 4 of you in the room. You are the raconteurs, but on stage there's a 5th member. Who is this 5th member?
Ooh, you've dug deep. No, that's
Pay no attention to the man behind the screen.
That's Mr.
They're going to take us to the break. We'll see.
That's Dean Fertitta. He's a friend of ours from way back, and he was a lead singer in a band called the Waxwings, and he's been playing with Brendan on tour for a while, and we just thought we'd have another person help us out on some of the other things. Like,
he had the right hair.
Not that we needed any help.
We just get a little lonely.
Yeah, we do get lonely on the road. So.
And he's going to be playing with you tonight.
Yes, he will. Good. Do you like how I thought about that?
Because you're going to move into the other studio now in order to play some songs, and I'm looking forward to it very much. Thanks very much.
I think this is a great time period, and I'm excited myself, selfishly, that I get to be part of this time period of Bond. I think that Daniel Craig is, he's the most exciting thing to happen in this realm of films in years, and I think that he's bringing something really fresh to it, and the directors as well are taking a total different look at this Bond character. The whole song is about trust, and I started to focus on, after reading the script and learning more about the film, about Bond and his inability to trust anyone, even himself. And that's where I wrote it from. And then the idea of Alicia being involved in us doing a duet got me more into the idea of male and female takes on the same idea. Just sort of fell into that, I fell into it being a duet, and which is incredible because it's the first one in Bond history. It's nice to be part of that. It's hard to have a first in such a franchise that's been going on for so long. We saw some of the clips of the opening intro of the new film, and that's what really inspired this video. When I saw it, I talked to Alicia and said, I think we should get the guys who did that. She's incredibly soulful, she's incredibly powerful with her voice, and I think she takes a lot of chances too. She doesn't really do this cookie-cutter pop music. She puts things into her compositions that aren't a safe way out. She's taking control and taking a chance and forcing a lot of things into her songs that wouldn't normally be on the radio, for instance. So I like people like that. She's immediately interesting to me. And then when we got together in the same room, it was so inspiring. She's so inspiring to be with, and you press stop on the reel-to-reel, and like we're both coming into the realm of Bond, from different places. So we both have our eyes wide open and to see where we're going to go with it.
Meg and I, the White Stripes, did a song called Rated X, and it was a song I always just thought was so shocking. The title and the subject matter, I just thought, wow, I can't believe she did it, I think it's just an inspiration to the next generation of what's possible with a country song, what's possible with a pop song too. That was inspiring to me. It's sort of like sent from heaven. There's when you work with a lot of people, producing or working in the studio or whatever, when you work with someone like her, it's almost like you forget everything else. You can't imagine how this talent is right in front of your eyes, and you're hearing these things that you're hearing. They just don't seem human. She's one of those.
My respect for filmmakers is, I can't even chart it, because I think it's the most difficult art form of any of the art forms. Sculpture, painting, music. Film is it's so hard to actually get someone to let it happen, to fund it to even happen, and then to allow it to be seen in front of other people's eyes, and even in their homes later on, and so forth, and to last. Every time a film is made that people enjoy and get something out of it, an artistic statement is made that can last more than a second, I think it's a triumph. It's a more of a triumph than anything that can happen in the music world. It's so much more difficult, and I think it deserves a lot more respect. If you're asking about an album, I'm working on 4 different records right now, so I can't always we just completed an album I just did a record with all the bus drivers from Nashville. The bus drivers put together a band called Transit. We worked on that record a couple weeks back, and a 2-piece band from England, beautiful harmonies called the Smoke Fairies. And a few more records I can't tell you about right now. They're coming soon. Would you like to see me do more acting? I don't. Am I asking you? Or are you asking me? I don't know. Some things have been offered at times. I've done a little bit here and there, and sometimes it speaks to me. And a lot of performance on stage is a fine line between what happens on stage in a musical group and what happens in vaudeville and what happens in a stage play on Broadway. It's all fine lines, and I think a lot of them can coincide at times. Again, like I said, as directing as well, and for me, I have to. The time that it takes is the hardest part for me. To give up 3 months to act, or 2 months, or whatever it is, for a particular project. There's so much I could be doing. I can do 3, 4, 7-inch vinyl records out of Nashville in that time. even more. And so that's the choice it always comes down to me. You know, a lot of the choices I've had to make those moments happen. Being in Walk Hard was usually like, you know, one-day shoot, or, you know, Cold Mountain was the longest I'd gone on and worked on that. But I mean, when I was in Romania for that film, 27 days in a row now working, sitting in a chalet in Transylvania, I started to think of how many records I could be making during that time. You know, so that could be hard. If I was working every day and directing maybe one day, that would probably be more what I would